Welcome to Heat Up Your Retreats, the podcast where purpose meets planning and God-sized dreams come to life through transformational travel experiences. I'm your host, Amanda Heater, CEO of Across the Horizon Travel, retreat strategist, and passionate believer in using travel as a tool for impact. Whether you're a coach, pastor, wellness leader, or change maker, ready to lead your first or even your next retreat, you're in the right place. Let's turn your vision into a powerful, profitable, and spirit-led retreat experience. Let's heat things up together. Welcome to Heat Up Your Retreats. Today, I am honored to be joined by Nikki Gangemi, a transformational mindset expert, international board-certified success and life coach, NLP practitioner, and clinical hypnotherapist who helps high achievers quiet mental overload, rebuild self-trust, and move forward with confidence without forcing productivity or fixing themselves. Nikki is the founder of Mindful Matters LLC, and she brings deep insight into how we carry pressure, overthinking, and self-doubt, even when everything looks successful on the outside. Her work blends practical tools, emotional resilience strategies, and mindset frameworks that empower people to break free from perfectionism and step confidently into the lives and businesses they truly want. On this episode, we are going to dive into the internal work behind big transformations, the same work that creates sustainable confidence, meaningful action, and emotional clarity, a perfect complement to retreat leaders who want to serve others with grounded presence and purpose. Nikki, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thank you, Amanda, for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
We are going to have so much fun today. I am so excited to just kind of dive into a little bit more about your work and what you do and the people you serve. So let's just dive into it.
Let's do
So
it.
obviously, you work a lot with high achievers who feel like they have it together, yet internally they're feeling very overloaded. So what's a common internal pattern you see in people who outwardly look successful but are mentally overwhelmed?
The first one that comes to mind is being hard on themselves, putting a lot of pressure, where to other people, what they're doing is great. They're very capable, they're successful, and the way they see it as is that wasn't good enough. That could be better. So they're constantly trying to fix and improve, and it can burn them out. It gets exhausting after a while. So that's one of the common patterns that I see, and I could totally relate to it.
Yes, 100%. Like I can relate to that as well. So
Mhm.
so your journey, it includes a lot of pivots. So it's from acting to teaching to coaching. You've done so many things. So how did those transitions shape your approach to resilience and self-trust in your work today?
You're really good at asking these questions. Well, resilience and self-trust. I feel like self-trust was something that I had to learn. I had to lean into it. And I feel like I started to do it when I was 23 and I decided to pursue the acting dream because that's always what I wanted from the time that I was a kid. I was very unhappy in my own skin. I didn't like myself. And to get to pretend to be somebody else, I had such relief from that. So when I moved out to LA from New Jersey, I gave myself 1 year to make it. And in that time, I looked for all the evidence for why it wasn't going to work out, why it wasn't good enough. Talk about being hard on yourself, and decided that I didn't have what it would take. And I came back
Mm,
home. The trust came where I was trusting in that things would work out. I mean, to take the leap and move across the country and even give it a shot. but I wasn't fully evolved yet, right? Not that we ever are, but certainly not at 23. So I had to step into resilience when I came back. It's like, okay, well, it was a little embarrassing because I was, everybody was rooting for me. I had a big going away party, and it's like 12 months later, here she is again. So
Oh,
I had to think, okay, what's next? Like, what am I going to do? Because I really didn't know what else to do. And then I ended up becoming an elementary school teacher. Well-meaning people in my life were kind of like, oh, come on, you come from a family of teachers. It's a rewarding career. And I finally just said, okay. Actually, my best friend said to me, oh, there's something called the alternate route where we could take the state test and then we can get hired and learn on the job. So I finally said, okay, but I pass the test. She fails. I become
mm,
the teacher. She doesn't. And then I end up just staying. You know how you just go through the motions and one day becomes a year and then it ended up becoming 15 years.
wow.
Yeah. So I had to reinvent myself again after that. And I had to trust. I think that one of the biggest acts of trust was resigning from that job and stepping
Mm.
full with 2 feet into being an entrepreneur and building a business when I had no background in that. So I would say that I've really started to trust myself then when I made that decision. And I continue to do it to this day. I mean, it's been 7 years now since I resigned.
Wow.
Hmm.
I still remember the day when I left my paralegal job. And that was almost 2 years ago. And I was so scared. And I kept feeling this pull and this draw to just let go of the corporate world. And I knew I was meant for something bigger. And obviously, that was how it was for you. And it's funny that you say it took you 15 years because it took me 15 years too to finally leave the
Really?
workforce. And obviously we learn from our past experiences, like with teaching and with you now doing what you do, that probably very much kind of falls into place of the coaching and things like that, of already knowing how to teach people in the level and the experience of what they need. Some people are a little slower learners, some people learn fast, etc. So I always say that there is a reason for us going through the seasons that we go through because it helps us grow into better people. If I did not have that experience of 15 years working as a paralegal, now in the things I do with working with retreat leaders and with big summits and events, I have experience looking through contracts and finding those tiny little details that a lot of
Mm.
people would scroll right past, right? And say, no, 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 we need to change that. That word does not make sense. And if I didn't have that 15 years of paralegal experience, I would not be able to provide the service that I provide now to the people that are looking to plan these types of events. So
Yeah.
kudos to you stepping out in faith.
And it was, I'll tell you, it was total faith. I remember one morning I was getting ready for work and I'm doing my hair and makeup in the mirror and I'm thinking, what do I do? Like, do I turn in my letter of resignation? Because once I do, there's no going back. And I just like dropped out of my head and into my body. And I remember feeling this sense of calm in my solar plexus area. And I said, that means I'll be okay. Even though I have no evidence that things will be okay, I know somehow, some way, I will be just fine. And so you talked about a pull, and I had similar, I had a feeling like in my gut that, and I
Mm,
trusted that.
I love that so much. Okay, so you talk about quieting mental noise rather than forcing productivity. So,
Mhm.
how can retreat leaders use mindset techniques to show up more fully and authentically with their attendees?
Mm. So I love different mindset techniques and tools. One that's so simple that anybody could do, including retreat leaders when they're showing up for their events, is to take some mindful breaths. It really is helpful for getting you out of your head and into your body and into the present moment because we need to be present when we're hosting an event or leading people in any way. So that would be the first thing. And I'll share a quick story, if I may, to help illustrate
Please.
this. And it's related to events. So my entry into the online space was hosting a summit. I had no idea what I was doing. It was a virtual summit. First time I heard of it, and I hired a business coach to help me. So I put together the summit. I bring together 25 speakers. The interviews were pre-recorded, and then the summit went live. And
Wow.
I remember I was driving to work on September 17th, 2017, and it hits me that this is going to be sent out to the world. People all over the world are going to be watching this. And I started to have a panic attack. I'm driving over the bridge and I'm hyperventilating and I'm crying. And I'm like, oh my God, what if people judge me and say this and that? And I started to practice what I preach. And I started to take these deep breaths so I could stay safe on the road. And I calmed down. I got present. And I said, what's important here is that people need to hear this message. The summit was Unlock Your Hidden Potential. So it wasn't about me and people judging or criticizing. We're not here to please. It's about people hearing the message of these 25 speakers. So the
Mm.
power of the breath alone just really brings you into the present so you have access to your thoughts and what you're there to talk about and lead.
100%. And just taking deep breaths, it sounds so basic, but it really isn't, because if you think about it, breathing in is breathe, that's life into your body. We need breath. We need the oxygen to be able to continue to focus. And if you are panicking, you're not, usually you're just tightening up and you're like taking these very, very, very shallow breaths. And when you
Mhm.
stop and you take in that big breath, it allows your body and your nervous system to really just settle down. And I've been there many times. I've been on stage my entire life, and I have had those panic moments. And it's like, okay, for me to be able to sing or for me to be able to speak, I can't be like out of breath, because I'm not, the words are not going to come out. I'm be squeaky, or I'm
Mhm.
going to like not be singing properly. And so I would have to take a step back, sometimes even close my eyes. Even when I'm on stage, I'm like, I don't really care if people judge me, and take that deep breath, hold it, let that oxygen get through my body, and then releasing the tension from your body. So key. So key
Yeah.
when you're panicking, to ground yourself, to take those
To
breaths. I
ground
love it.
yourself. Yeah. Yes.
Mm.
And another tip, and this is not so much mindset, but it's something called anchoring that people can do. Let's say you want to feel confident or calm or empowered or whatever the state is that you want to feel before stepping on the stage or leading the group of people. You could set an anchor on your body somewhere inconspicuous, like your knuckle, or maybe putting your index and thumb, two fingers together, and you can go ahead and fire off that anchor after you've trained your body that this stimulus, touching my two fingers together, makes my body respond with this emotion.
Wow.
Empowerment, confidence, anything that you want to feel before you start speaking. So that's another tool that they can use.
I love that. So, can you elaborate a little bit on that? Because me, selfishly, I know that that's something I need. So, how do you train your mind, like to touch your forefinger and your thumb together to ground yourself? What what training of like your mental state and your physical state come with that? For because like I can't just do this and be like, okay, I'm grounded. Like, what comes
Right.
with that?
It's very intentional. Actually, so anchoring, we think of like Pavlov's dogs, the experiment where the ringing of the bell and the dogs would salivate. It's stimulus response. And this stimulus response is happening naturally. Every day we all experience it. I mean, if you've ever heard a song come on the radio and it brings you right back to that time when you were with that person, stimulus, the song, response, that feeling and that memory of that person. So a baby, we were talking about like kids before we started recording, and I know my niece and nephew, they sleep with a sleep sack. And my nephew pulls up his sleep sack up here like this to his nose, and he feels this comfort and calm. So it's that whole the way the body works, stimulus response. So with anchoring, you can intentionally set up that stimulus and response with a knuckle or with your fingers, even with your earlobe, where what you do is you get into that state. Let's go with confidence, since we're talking about retreat leaders wanting to feel confident in your message and in your delivery. And you remember a time when you felt totally confident. And you know how you can go somewhere in your mind and your brain believes it's real, even though you're only imagining it? That's what you do. You elicit that state, and then you do the stimulus, the putting your finger to your knuckle to touch it, or you can
Mm-hmm.
use your fingertips. And as you're doing that, you hold it for 5 to 15 seconds, because that's how long your brain takes to make that neurological connection of this stimulus equals this response. And then that's
Mm.
it. It's very quick. And then you could refresh it, you could make it stronger, but it can be that simple.
Wow. Thank you for sharing
Mhm.
that because
Sure.
obviously, like, I needed a little bit of that learning behind it. With speaking on stages and doing big things, especially with retreats, which I'm actually hosting one
Mhm.
of my own this coming September. Even if you have lots of experience speaking in front of people, when you're hosting something big like a retreat, there is a lot of what is the word I'm looking for? There's fear with a retreat leader. I know personally myself because we're trying to provide a transformational experience, and the fear can overtake what the message that we're trying to present. And so
Mhm.
having that easy anchoring and grounding of, okay, you've got this, you know what you're going to share. You've practiced this. This is not as hard as you're making it. It's so key to anchor yourself because
Mhm.
I know I'm not the only
Yes.
one that freaks out when I get on a stage or speak in
Nope.
front of others.
You're not the only one. Yeah, it's very common. But that's one tool that you could use, anchoring. And as you were talking, another one that came to mind is mental rehearsal, where you could just mentally rehearse yourself leading that retreat over and over and over again in your mind, and then your brain starts to believe, "Oh my God, I've done this a million times. This is a cakewalk." You
Mm,
start to feel more relaxed.
yes, I love that. Oh, thank you so
Mhm.
much. That was amazing
Welcome.
nuggets.
You're welcome.
So
I
I
could
know
talk
a
about
lot of
this stuff all
people.
day.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. That's why we have you here because you're these are tips and tricks for retreat leaders that need these tips. So thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
So I know that a lot of people struggle with perfectionism and even second guessing decisions. What are practical ways that people can start breaking free from those habits?
Well, the first thing is to have the awareness. I always say awareness is the first step. We can't change what we're not aware of. So if you are aware that you tend to be a bit of a perfectionist, I'm recovering. I still
Same.
find myself in these perfectionism spirals sometimes when I'm playing with ChatGPT for hours. Refine this message, make it better. But it's
Same.
having, right? It's like catching yourself. Oh, there I go again. I'm doing the thing. So having that awareness is the first step. And then being willing to do it different. So one thing with perfectionism specifically, I'll ask myself a question which helps me to stop going down a rabbit hole and switch tracks. So
Mm,
first I'll become aware that I'm doing it, and I'll use the example of messaging, whether it's a post on social media or it's a message that you're going to deliver at your retreat, and I'll ask myself, what's important for me to say here? And that helps me go inside and start to sift and sort and look for what's important. What is it that I want to say? It helps to just kind of get out of all that mental noise and all of the things. So becoming aware, taking a breath, and then asking the question, what's important here?
so good. I hope you guys are taking notes as you're listening today because, ooh, this is some good stuff. Like, I am mentally taking notes. Thank God this is recorded for me to listen to later, but good stuff. Good stuff.
I like to make it practical, right? Just simple and practical things that you can do repeatedly.
Mhm. As we're talking about simple and practical things, you have developed a framework. One of them I know is the CALM method. So, can you walk us through where that came from and how retreat facilitators might apply that in their daily leadership?
Yes, and thank you for bringing up the calm method. So the calm method came about by pure inspiration. I was hired to do a money mindset presentation for a jewelry company. And 2 days before the workshop, the person who hired me called me and said, Nikki, this is no longer important. The world had just shut down. It was March 2020. And she goes, can you just do something to help these women because they are so afraid. There's things that there's this uncertainty. I said, oh, sure, absolutely. And I hang up the phone and I think, oh my God, I've got 2 days to come up with this. So after a while of just being in my head and getting nowhere, I said, I'm going to practice what I preach. I'm going to put this aside. I'm going to sleep on it. And I'm going to trust that I'll wake up with the just right idea for these women. And when I woke up the next day, I did something I never do. I popped up out of bed and I saw the word calm, CALM, and each letter stood for a step, for getting out of the mental chaos to a place of clarity so you can make an empowered decision and take action on it. So that's how Calm came about. And the ladies loved it. And then I started using it in my own coaching. And people were like, oh, I like this. It's a simple framework for how to turn around the thoughts in my mind and take aligned action. So then I had the idea of putting it into a book. And that's when the book came out a couple of years ago. So, how retreat leaders can use it is it gets them to, again, first we have to become C is conscious in calm, conscious of, okay, this is how I'm feeling. And that's the first step is to become conscious of how you're feeling and take a few breaths to just process that emotion. The A is aware. So now that I'm conscious of how I'm feeling, become aware of the thoughts that you're thinking. And like a lawyer, put those thoughts on trial. Are these facts? Or are these beliefs, interpretations, attitudes? And that's where you move into the L in calm, which is lean into what else is possible. So if you've determined these are not hard facts, I could be a little flexible in my thinking. That's where you start to reframe some of those thoughts, which helps you move your focus onto what it is that you do want. And then you start feeling so much better right there just by changing your thoughts. And then the M is make a new decision. So now that you've put your focus on what's important, what are you going to decide to do next that feels aligned? And then take that action before you talk yourself out of it. So you want to take the action immediately. So I'd be
So good.
curious to hear, yeah, how you could see that working for a retreat leader.
I mean, that 100% could work in multiple ways with the day of the retreat, preparing for the retreat. Obviously, for you, you experienced it firsthand. And thank goodness you came up with this method because so many people need this. With the world shutting down and now it's reopened, but still there's so many crazy things going on in the world right now. We don't even dive into that rabbit hole. But some of us can really just freak out. And this method is just a way to just stop, back to the word of grounding yourself and then
Yeah.
moving in a new direction away from like the negative state that you were in. So it's so good. That's so good. Thank you for sharing that with us.
You're welcome. Thank you. Yeah, and it could be used for anything, even if you have to have an uncomfortable conversation with someone, business or
Mhm.
personal. It's like, okay, let me take a couple of minutes to just go through the CALM, and it just helps you to show up better, show up as an improved version of yourself.
Yes, 100%. So, Nikki, what is one mindset shift or practice that you've seen create the biggest transformation in your clients, especially for those that are juggling big goals, emotional overwhelm, and leadership responsibilities, all of the things?
So, a mindset shift that has led to the biggest transformation. I mean, the first thing that came to my mind, and it's not exactly a mindset shift that you could easily do, but it's hypnosis. Honestly, it's working with the subconscious mind. And what you're changing is you're changing your beliefs that you have, your self-image, how you see yourself, what you believe that you're capable of. And I notice that that makes some of the biggest transformations and the fastest transformations in people. From just being nervous to shine their light and speak up, and then suddenly it's like they could easily speak up. They feel confident in what they're going to say. But the good news is that it is a skill, self-hypnosis, that you could pretty easily learn with practice. So I'm going to share this as another practical tool that people can do a little bit of research around and use self-hypnosis to reprogram the mind and have it work for you in your favor.
Very cool. Well, Nikki, thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom and your nuggets today. Real quick, before we close out our podcast, where can listeners find you? Website, social media? What's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Well, my website is the best way, and that's my name, nikkigangemi.com. From my website, they can access all of my social media. I've got a YouTube channel with helpful practical mindset tips. All the things could be found on the website.
Perfect. Well, thank you again so much for being on our episode with us today, Nikki. We appreciate you so very much. We have covered some powerful ground today, from emotional resilience and self-trust to even slowing that mental chatter that blocks clarity and action. If today's conversation resonated with you, I encourage you to take one thing you heard and put it into practice this week. Whether that's a small shift in how you reset your nervous system or how you approach big decisions. You can follow Nikki on her website via her social media, and you can get tools and trainings on her YouTube that are going to support clarity, confidence, and calm in daily life. Remember, your inner work fuels your outer impact. If you have enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who's ready to step into their next level with intention and heart. Until next time, we'll see you later, and thank you for showing up today on Heat Up Your Retreats. Bye, friends. Thank you for tuning in to Heat Up Your Retreats. I hope today's episode sparked fresh inspiration and reminded you that your retreat vision is meant to be realized. Are you ready to take the next step? Please send me an email at amanda@acrossthehorizontravel.com with the subject line of strategy session, and let's start building a transformational retreat that aligns with your mission. Be sure to follow, share, and leave a review so more leaders like you can heat things up too. Until next time, keep dreaming big, keep planning bold, and keep heating up your retreats.